Hi everyone, it's Dr. Lepore here, and I wanted to talk to you about designing your future. So the term designing has a very specific meaning. It means to actually sit down, think through, and move forward in a purposeful way, as opposed to letting things unfold. I mean, there are times when things unfold and you can't help it. That's part of life. But what we're trying to do in this course is put you in the driver's seat so that you have the power to design, to think about, and start moving purposefully towards what you want. So that's what we're going to talk about. So a couple ideas about design thinking. Design thinking exists outside of career services. It is not career planning alone. Design thinking extends to like every part of your life and pretty much every part of industry as well. It consists of a couple of steps. So the first one is connecting the dots, figuring out how things work together. And it means being able to empathize or take on somebody else's or something else's role. You want to define the gravity problems, the big things. You want to come up with some ideas. And in this case, we're going to talk about the many lives of you, which is really this idea that there is no one life we're supposed to live. There is no one path we're supposed to walk. But there's really many options. And you may actually take advantage of many options throughout your life. The average person has multiple careers now. Remember, I started out years ago as an art major, ended up in training and technology, and somehow now in 2020, I'm teaching career work to undergraduates. I wouldn't change a thing. But I wonder how it would have been if I designed it instead of letting at least the first couple years happen to me. Prototyping is where we test things out and we try things. And then testing is where we start to make choices and make decisions on what we're doing. So here's a really big question. What are my options? Right? And where do I fit? I think we ask these questions throughout our entire lives. Okay? There's probably a third one here. Notice I have a star next to it. How do I get there quickly and without wasting time? We don't want to wander. The idea of designing is actually having some form of control and kind of steering throughout what we're doing. So some of the things we're going to talk about are how do we make choices? Where are there jobs for arts and sciences graduates? What kind of tools do we have and what strategies do we have? So some things to know. If you take a look, we've seen these diagrams before, but it's just to give you an idea of where we might go. And, our interests and the market might affect, where we end up. You'll notice there are some splits by gender. So what do you think? How do most students make their initial career and major choices? Well, these are all ways that people do this. So, I'm going to go with C first just because it's fun. I want you to think about the fact that from the day you entered school, you were asked, what are you going to be when you grow up? And you're probably sitting there, you're like 5 years old, you're like, I just want to be happy. But somewhere along the line, we take this in as we have to have a plan. It's really hard to have a plan. If we all went by our plans, we would have an awful lot of princesses and firemen or firewomen, and we'd have a lot of Lego testers. We'd have some Yankees announcers. So dream jobs are great. They help us stay motivated through our life and keep working. But they're not the only thing we can do. Other people ask for advice from those around them. They take some career interest testing, do research and comparison, and many people just don't make a decision until it hits an emergency. I think that if you had to choose from this, the best option is to do a little bit of everything here. But these are all ways that we've seen students make their career choices. So if we were in the classroom, I would have you think, pair, and share. But I'm not going to do that online. What I want you to do is I want you to think about what has influenced your thoughts about and careers that are going to fit you. And I want you to actually talk to somebody. It could be somebody that you are friends with. It could be a family member, but somebody who knows you. And I want you to talk to them about the majors and careers that you think fit you and get some feedback from them. Now be aware their feedback is just that. It is not your decision. But how people see us sometimes makes a difference. So back to the idea of careers here. So where do our arts and sciences graduates work? As you notice, we graduate, we have first jobs, second jobs, third jobs. It used to be people would graduate, get a job, and they'd stay there for their entire career. That doesn't work anymore. But what you can see is that people do move around. There's a lot of movement. Starting in a sales job does not mean you stay in a sales job, right? You'll notice that people move through here. Right? And I suggest that you take a look at this chart and actually even trace through here to find out where you think you might want to go. Right? Now, by their third job, most graduates are working in jobs that perform major business functions like communications, management, overseeing operations. And in here again, you can see that what ends up happening is the majority of people shift into this middle ground, no matter where they start. So that could help you guide your search. So some of the common types of jobs for arts and science majors, well, we have the storytellers. These are people who are the analysts. They look at data, they do research with a little r, meaning in their environment, and they analyze, understand, and tell the story of something. It's probably not how you pictured analysis, is it? Or research, or consulting. But really, it comes down to storytelling. Persuaders are the people who convince other people of things. You'll see people who are in fundraising, in communications and public relations, human resources, sales. They are people that are looking to connect and convince an audience. Now, the next group is also a connector. Maybe everybody's a connector. Maybe we should be careful with that term. But this third group are the people who are the helpers, the connectors. And what they do is they stand between a group and another service group. So for instance, the IT help desk works between us and the technology folks to make sure things are working well. But you'll see this in lots of other jobs. And notice that they put teachers and counselors in here as well. Okay, so these are people who connect between others and resources that we have. We have designers who have to understand how human beings think and work and design solutions for them. And then we have organizers who keep things structured and manageable. So organizers, event planners, project managers, coordinators, people who are really good at organization and can keep things moving. These are some common jobs that you'll see coming out of the arts and sciences. Now, the fastest set of job occupations may not actually even fit in one of these. We're seeing that we have these ideas of these soft and technical skills. So when we hear about soft, it doesn't mean soft as in, ooh, it's easy, and hard doesn't mean, ooh, it's difficult. No, soft skills mean that they are more flexible, where hard skills are more rigid. So you'll start to see some of these hybrid ideas where we're asking for people who can cross over the lines. They're specialists in more than one area. So finding purposeful work gets to be kind of hard when you start to think about the fact that there is no roadmap right now and we have to design it ourselves. In this case, one of the things that you might want to know is this idea that 20% of the activities that you do in your job, if they feel like they're purposeful, if you can feel like this is good, you're probably going to describe your job as purposeful. So that means 80% of the work you do, you may not feel purpose, but we're looking for at least 20% that's aligning carefully with what we consider to be meaningful, good work. Okay? If we're not getting to that 20%, we're probably not going to feel as good about our work. We still might be able to meet our values and our goals. But it's just something to be aware of. You can't expect your job to be purposeful every minute of every day. Even in a job like mine where I absolutely love what I do and I wouldn't ask to do anything different, there are still things that are just, part of the job. There's paperwork to file and there's grading, and some grading I love, like feedback, but there's other grading that just has to be done. So be aware, it doesn't always have to feel good, but if you're hitting at least 20% of your day is feeling like it's got purpose, you're doing really well. So as we keep talking about this, people research careers constantly, and one of the ideas are the career-specific skills. So if you look at these career-specific skills for arts and science majors, what you might notice is that these might be something you learn in your major, but they might not. So if you were to add one of these, you become this multidimensional person, and it's going to help you find a job. And in our current economy, it is imperative that we think about how we build these other skills. They could be through classroom experiences, but they can also be through things that you've chosen on your own. And that's a great thing to talk about with me when you're doing an individual meeting. Remember, you have to do at least one individual meeting with me this semester. So you have lots of tools to use, and you're probably starting to see your mind turn right now. Write things down. Talk to people who know you well. Okay? Take a career test. Go for professional advice from someone here at Rutgers, and do some reading. And I'm going to encourage all of these. Okay? So remember that job satisfaction is found between the living wage, where the feeding your mind, your soul, and your belly. Right? And when we find that, we're going to find job satisfaction. Right? I think I flipped one. Let's see. Let me go back a second. Okay. So career success. Remember that we were talking about this. We've seen this diagram before. It starts with this. Everybody needs ethics and integrity and work ethics and management. We learn our career skills in college, and then we learn our job-specific skills and experiences. So what we start to find is that most entry-level jobs require fewer technical skills and more generalist skills. So just something to think about. A lot of the stuff that you're going to learn in the arts and sciences, the general education part, is going to influence your career heavily, especially in the beginning. I don't know why it keeps slipping. So you want to start using some patterns to get you started on this. One of them is to figure out what were your dream jobs? What was in common between them? When I look back, all the things that I really wanted to do made the world a better place. And that became a core value to me, is I want to know that I'm doing something that is helping other people. All right? So look for these patterns. Look for the things that are in common between them. This is going to help you kind of target your exploration. But talk to me. Talk to career services. Talk to your faculty. There are lots of people who can help you on this. Okay? One of your assignments this week is going to be to assess your many possible futures. When I look back at the art major that I was when I first started college, when I start to think about all the things in front of me that I never knew would happen, I don't think I could have pictured these futures. And if anybody had asked me at the time, I think I was worried more about getting through one day at a time than I was about where I would be 20 years later, sitting here talking to you on a computer. So I want to challenge you, though, to start thinking about the futures. I want you to think about what would be ideal to you, like what is it you really want to do? But then I want you to start thinking of alternatives. If this doesn't work out, well, this could work for me. And I want you to look at what you're studying and start moving it out to the future, saying, well, how could this influence my life later? When I diagram my life now, I can see how I got to where I was based on decisions that I'd made. But at the time, I wasn't thinking strategically. Right? That wasn't what I was thinking. But remember, my being an art major and then choosing to do a minor in adult learning led me into training. And then I was training Photoshop and other graphics programs, which led me into web design and server management, which led me into data management. And from there, it just kept moving. I ended up doing management. I ended up walking back and forth in the career. So think about that. So you're going to see this online. So let's get started. I'll see you back in class.